Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 75 of Social Harmony, where today I'm joined by Tim Middelbos from all the way in the Netherlands. Tim runs the Emotional Reset. His mission is to help guys who have struggled emotionally so that they can master their emotions and not return to the dark places of self-loathing, self-sabotage, depression, etc. Now, Tim came to this line of work following an instance of his own where a relationship that he was in ended. Girl just told him after a long period of time of him doing a lot of running around, a lot of making himself available, that she just didn't want him anymore. And as a young man, not fully grasping his emotions and understanding thereof, he spiraled. He lost interests in his hobbies and friends and things like this. And I think this is a story that's not too uncommon. And we discuss, well, how men get to the point where they feel this way. What's the programming? What's the societal expectations on us that get us to this point? And why do men not seem particularly great when it comes to the emotional sphere in the early days, in the same way that women are? And we also discuss the differences in how men and women approach things, how men just need to be coached a little bit differently, perhaps. I mean, you may have your own opinions on this, and I would love to hear your comments on it. But I found this to be, yeah, there was a lot of agreement in what Tim was saying. I found a lot of relatability in the stories that he was telling. Again, these are things that I've been through that I'm sure many have as well. That they're just little echoes of my own life, and I look back and I wish that I'd had somebody that were there to coach me, that to help me through this, to let me know that, yeah, you're not alone. So please, with that in mind, hope you enjoy the episode as always. Thank you very much for tuning in. Hello then. Well, welcome to the show. Today, Tim, can I ask you, tell me who you are, what it is that you do?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. I'm very
My
happy to
pleasure,
be
my
here.
friend, my pleasure.
My name is Tim Middelbos. Currently, I'm 35 years old. I'm from the Netherlands, born and raised in the Netherlands. Um, and what I do basically is, well, I mean, you know how life can throw challenges at you sometimes, right?
Hmm.
And most of the time, we manage, especially as men, and we
Yeah.
manage by ourselves. But
Hmm.
every now and then, life throws something at us that we are having trouble with handling ourselves. And
Yeah.
that's where I come in. So when people are going down this slippery slope of anxiety, depression, stuff like that,
Hmm.
then I go into a conversation with them and I created a program called the Emotional Reset where I basically set the settings back to where they were before they
Hmm.
went down the road of depression and anxiety.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's basically what I do.
Okay. Lovely. Well, can I ask, what brought you into this line of work?
Yeah, great question. Actually, I'm a bit embarrassed to share that at one point
Hmm.
I said that coaches and psychologists and everything that has to do with that were a bit of almost I wanted to say charlatans because I
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
it was a bit woo woo and that kind of stuff. I've
yeah.
been there myself as well until something as simple as a relationship breakup knocked me off my feet. I mean, I
Hmm.
had a relationship that were broken up before I broke up. I've been broken up, but this one hurt really deep, and I couldn't handle myself. I was 22 at the time, and I just went into this why spiral. Like, why did this happen to me?
Hmm. Yeah.
Why me? And before you know it, you answer all these questions. and you have a very long list of why you're not good enough. And then for
Mm.
me, the biggest mistake I made is I started to believe all those things, that I was too fat, I had not enough money, I was not funny enough, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And it knocked me off my feet, off my balance.
Mm.
And then what I did is, at some point, I hit my threshold. I remember at an evening, I wanted to watch a game of darts. That was what I was doing at the time,
Mm-hmm.
with a friend of mine. And on my way there, I remember stepping outside of the house, stepping on my bicycle, and on my way, I got a panic attack again. And
Mm.
I threw my bike in the bushes, sat down in the middle of the city with my head in my hands, thinking, how is it possible that I think all these things that I don't want to think?
Mm.
And how is it possible that I feel all these feelings that I don't want to feel?
Mm.
Until such an extent that it has such a negative impact on my own life, and therefore also the people around me. And that's where I searched for answers. And for me, the answer was Tony Robbins.
Mm.
uh, and maybe later on I can share the story how that went. But
Yeah.
what I did was I went to the Date with Destiny, one of his core programs in
Mm.
America, and that's where everything around anxiety and depression for me was solved like snow in the
Yeah.
sun. And for the first year and a half, I was still processing all the healing.
Mm.
And then I thought, wow, this stuff really works. And for all the people that were there, it really worked. So then I
Mm.
thought, I want to learn this stuff as well. So I bought the Tony Robbins course,
Mm-hmm.
expanded my search and my knowledge with other people like Joe Dispenza, Eckhart Tolle. So yeah, I got lots of courses and certifications in that. And that's like, yeah, this is the path that I want to go
Mm.
through because I needed someone when I was very down that I didn't have. And now I want to
Mm.
become that person for other people. So that's how I
Yeah.
got into this.
Mm. Yeah, and that's why I ask. I mean, I suppose the kind of work that we do, it generally is a passion play. I mean, I can relate to what you're saying about believing, people in these roles as charlatans or a bit wool, whatever. Again, I think we've all been there. And it's not until life kicks you in the bollocks that something has to change. I mean, I don't know. I ain't got all the answers. I mean, I've been through my own sort of conversions on these things as well. But I do find a lot of guys, like you pointed out on, they absorb until they get to a point that, well, you don't know what to do. And I think that's something that nowadays there's a lot more conversation about these things, whereas in the past there wasn't. And I think possibly that's where a lot of guys may be resistant to it, because I don't know. Now it might be a bit more normalized, but I do think it's still a struggle. And like you say, the story about with your bike and what have you, while the details may be different, when I speak to a lot of guys, once they get to that point, they've all got an origin story that something's broken them, something's sent their mind in a different way, that what I've been doing is not working. I need a new answer. So like you mentioned Tony Robbins, or however you come to it, whatever it is, I think maybe it's a male thing, I don't know, but we seem to have this task focused way of doing things. That,
Yeah.
like you said, it answered a lot of questions for you, and you thought, right, this is what I want, and I want more of it. And I was the same. I actually came to it when I changed careers and I started training to be a social worker. And a lot of the psych papers that I did, and I thought, shit, I do that. This is me. All these maladaptive things that I've done, and it started to give me the answers. So I went down real rabbit holes, and yeah, I don't know, that worked for me. But I think, yeah, this what you're doing, especially I think targeting men, because I do believe men either have an aversion to it, or the programs that seem to be out there traditionally were not really fitting for men. Does that track? Like
Yeah.
talk therapy and what have you.
And I tried the traditional therapy myself as well, and I had like
Mm,
5 or 6 conversation, and then I was like, no, no, this is not for me. Also, personally, I didn't wanted to be involved in any drugs or medication or anything
mm,
like that, because for me it only solves the how do you say, the symptoms instead of the
mm,
core problem. And what you mentioned, like, if it's a guy thing, um, I think it might be because if someone, I don't know about yourself, but for me, it also was kind of an ego thing. Up
mm.
until that point, I solved everything by myself. So I thought
Yeah,
I can solve this by myself as well.
yeah,
And to a certain extent, I also already knew that I created this myself because I wasn't depressed or anxious before. It just, after that, I changed my way of thinking and my way of
mm,
behaving. And that's where my point of view went wrong. But what I did wrong very badly is asking for help way, way, way too late.
mm,
And then when you go into the I'd say programs for men, especially, I completely agree with you. For me, the only question was how. Like, men are very practical. You give them a step by
yeah,
step process, like do this, do
yeah,
this, do this, and then most of the time they're fine. But when you listen to all the manifestation things or the meditation, I mean, I didn't want to start there. I mean, I like it
mm,
now, but when I was depressed, I just wanted to know how do I get out of this.
yeah,
And that was something I got obsessed with the how,
mm,
because a lot of these programs are into the feelings and um, positive thinking. But for
mm,
me, it's like, yeah, that's all fine. But how do I get better? How do I get out of this
yeah,
hole I dug myself into?
yeah,
And yeah, so yeah, that's yeah, that's what I created this program.
hmm,
It's all about the how. And
yeah,
if you want to develop yourself spiritually after that, that's fine. That's up to you. If you don't, that's fine either. For me,
mm,
it's all about the first steps, practical steps. How do I get out of this negative behavior, anxiety,
mm,
and go from there?
yeah, yeah. I mean, what's your view on, like, I suppose, and I know it's a broad stroke, but in the main, men's mental and emotional awareness, things like that. From the circles that you move in and the conversations you have, do you feel that overall it's a good thing, it's a bad thing, or what? I mean, I don't know.
What do you mean? What is a good thing or a bad thing?
Um, I suppose, like I alluded to before, like when I was young, there weren't really conversations about mental health, whereas now it's a common discourse. And like we've both touched upon, men often seem to be resistant, especially initially, and do, like you did, ask for help too late because there's that ego
Yeah.
thing of pushing through or appearing bulletproof or whatever it is. So I suppose now, in the circles you move in and the conversations you have, do you think in the main men's mental and emotional awareness is improving and getting better, or do you think there's still a way to go yet?
Oh, I definitely think there's a way to go, because when you start talking about emotions and feelings and thinking and stuff like that, it's still perceived as more feminine. But
Mm,
when you break it down into practical things without mentioning those things, then it makes sense.
yeah.
Um, but and I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. It just is.
Mm,
I do think men are starting to open up about improving.
mm,
And if you state it like that, it's for me, it's all about improving yourself, becoming the best version of you, whatever that
yeah.
is for you.
Mm,
But sometimes, especially when you don't know how to do something, then the best way
mm,
is to ask for help.
mm,
And in my opinion, it's the best way to ask for help for people to have been in the place and the situation when you're into, because they know what you're going through. They can sit with you
mm,
in the dark and then reach out the hand, and
mm.
whether you take it or not, that's up to you. I mean, it's not like as a coach or a program, you wave a wand and you're out of it. You still have to
Yeah.
work to do yourself as well.
Yeah.
Um, and once the realization is there, And actually, I want to refer a little bit back to when I said my throwing my bike in the bushes and you
Mm,
changing your career. It's actually very interesting to look back at those events because when you hit a threshold, there's something inside you that doesn't settle for the point you are at that stage.
mm,
And you can use that also in different areas. So for me, it was my mental health. I knew that if I didn't improve on this, it would go down in a very dark place.
yeah.
But you can also use the same strategy like, okay, I draw a line. This is my bottom line. This is my rock bottom, period.
Mm,
And then get some very, very good emotional involvement in there. Like, this really is the bottom line. And then from there, you can start finding answers.
mm,
But you have to decide what your bottom line is first, because otherwise you will just keep going down until, well, like
yeah.
we said, often it's too late.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, can I ask, is there anything that you think societally that maybe needs to be changed or looked at differently when it comes to let's focus on men's mental health rather than mental health as a thing.
Yeah, so when it comes to men, I think men are untrained
Mm,
with regulating their emotions. So when
mm,
they get stuck, it's all about dealing with it themselves because that's what
mm.
we've been taught. Like, don't cry as a man, right? As a man, you don't
Yeah.
cry. And we all know those famous expressions.
Mm,
But what it creates is like emotional constipation.
yeah.
um, and what,
Love that saying. I love that saying.
yeah. And then we get all bloated and then we get sick mentally,
Mm, mm,
especially as men. And then that's the part we seek help. Um, I love to use an analogy like this because this is what I've been working towards myself also with other people is
mm,
let's say you are a father of four kids
mhm.
and in an ideal situation you love them all equally, right?
Yeah.
Let's go with that for now. But
Mm,
now let's give them all a name. Let's say we call them love, we call them joy, we call them guilt, and we call them shame. Do we
mhm,
still love all four kids the same?
mm,
Because we love to feel good and we love to feel the good emotions and the good feelings, and then that's seen as normal. But
yeah.
when we feel the shame, the guilt, the well, whatever you perceive as negative, depression,
Mm,
that's where we try to push things down, where to hide things, and we there are parts of us we don't want to share with other people because we
mm,
see them as weak.
mm,
Well, if, as you embrace them and just show up as you can drop the mask and then
mm,
you will feel so much lighter because it's way easier to just be you than to
mm.
play a role as someone or society, like you said, expects you to behave.
Yeah.
Um, and I think we all love the people secretly deep down inside that are just being themselves. We
Mm,
all look society tells us to look up to the Elon Musk and the Bill Gates
mm,
and the high status men. For me
mm,
personally, is the people that can be themselves without
mm.
any shame, without any guilt, just be who they are as they are.
Yeah.
Um, that's what I look at. That's what I think you should
Mm,
aim for because then the rest will fall into place.
mm.
Um,
Yeah, no, I think I like the analogy, and I think there's a few things you touched on there that resonate with me. I mean, I fell into a trap of thinking that emotional mastery was the pushing it down that you speak of. You know,
yeah,
that was mastering my emotions as though I was controlling them in that way. And it took me a long time to get to the point where, like you say, the four elements, I don't know if I love them equally, but I can take them for what they are. As my
yeah,
emotions, I see them as data. Like, whereas before I'd see sadness or guilt or shame or whatever as weaknesses that I'd hide. Whereas now,
yeah,
I suppose I've got to a point where they just are. I had a pattern of, like, when I don't know, I'd wake up not feeling great, whether I was angry, sad, or whatever, and I felt an urge to get happy. So that'd be, going buying myself something expensive, or going out having a few drinks, or, well, in certain stages, it'd be drugs or anything like that. But the problems still remain. It took me a long time to sit with those emotions and go, well, today's just not the best day, and I'll deal with it. That kind of
Yeah.
thinking. It's, yeah, it did take me a long time. And again, another one, I think I also fell into the trap of feel bad and do something quick fix to get it right. I was not aware of how, I suppose, how to reverse engineer, how to do the work. And also, I didn't have the ability to be vulnerable or to show shame. I'd tell a couple of hard luck stories or things that had happened to me in my past that were quite sad. And then I in my mind, perceived that as me being, emotionally aware because I could admit some sad stuff. But I was hiding so much. It was all an image. I wasn't being,
Yeah.
I suppose, I wasn't trying to be, wily or trick people. It was just where I was at that stage emotionally. It was, yeah, I don't know. It's been like a funny conversion. And mine, I suppose it was more by happy accident when I had a career change that I fell into this, because up until that point, I had left it way too late to ask for any help or to even, I just carried on with this bulletproof thing and just did the fool's errand thing and just keep trying the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And then
Yes.
got more angry at myself when that result didn't come. Do you know what I mean? And again, I don't know how unique my story is, but again, I speak to guys and it's of a similar pattern. That's, yeah, that's just, I don't know. We seem to grow up on this dysfunctional way of being, or maybe it was a way of being that worked 30, 40, 50 years ago and just doesn't fit with the world today. I mean, can I say, where do you think a lot of this comes from? This innate belief that we have to be a superhero.
I don't think it comes from I just like becoming a superhero. I think it's all about from the moment you grow up,
Mm,
we being taught that you have to behave a certain way in
mm,
certain situations. So
mm,
we never learn how to express our full range of emotions, and sometimes if we do, then we get even punished for them. Like if we
mm.
cry being angry too often, then we get punished for it. So
Yeah.
then we learn that anger is equal to being punished. But
Mm,
in some situations, I'm playing advocate's devil right after devil's advocate right now. In some
mm,
situations, it can be very helpful to be angry. So you need the
mm.
capacity to become angry.
Yeah.
Same with so I tell you, when I was depressed,
Mm,
it met some of my needs as well. So here's what I mean by that. For me, the story of the breakup, and it's a simple story, but for me it was real, but it was for me also a way to connect with other people. Like this happened to me, so you have to feel sorry for me, and that's a way
mm,
for me to connect with people.
mm,
And it's a sad way, and it's not a good way,
mm.
but it's the truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's more a part of it than the superhero that's being as an ideal. It's more like
Mm,
we've been taught in so many ways to play a role, like
mm.
at school, at the job, like everywhere,
Yeah.
that we just don't know how to express or how to um, feel. I
Mm,
think that's the right word, how to feel. So instead
mm,
of running away from your emotions, you turn around and you look at it, like sit with it. What is this?
mm.
Where does this come from?
Yeah.
Um, and I think if you learn how to do that, and especially when they're kids, if you learn how they can regulate their emotions, then you will
Mm.
not have these problems at a later age because you know how to regulate. But
Mm.
because, especially as men, we never learn this stuff, and now we're at a certain age where something hits us what we cannot manage, and now we have also all sorts of mental problems
Mm.
that often we cannot show because we've been taught that big boys don't cry,
Yeah.
and then you get into this feeling that also that nobody cares, which
Mm.
in a way is true, and a lot of people see that as a sad thing. For me, once I looked at it differently, I found it very liberating, to
Mm.
be honest, because if no one cares, then I can do and be whatever I want. So then
Mm.
I choose me, because nobody
Mm.
cares anyway. So I care,
Yeah.
and then you attract a different kind of people that belong to you in your tribe and
Mm.
become your friends. That's a way better way than just conform to whatever role you're trying to play. Because
Yeah.
deep down, I think it all comes down to one thing or two things maybe, and that's the feeling of not being good enough, not being enough, not being
Mm.
good enough at something.
Yeah.
And so if you look at it a little bit further, that if we're not enough, then we are not being loved, then we are not
Mm.
deserving of love. And we
Yeah.
all crave love and connection, even as men. We can
Mm.
try to work around that, but I think that's just the core of everything. We also want to be loved,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's the thing I would say
Mm.
about this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I
I
think
don't know if you
that's
agree, but yeah,
yeah, yeah. No, no. I can pick a lot of that out of, and that I can relate to, or that I've heard as well. And I think you're right in that ultimately we do crave that love and connection. I think it's how we go about it. In that, oh, I don't know about you, but for a long time, and this is why I welcome more men in this field working with men, because I got the impression that a lot of self-help tended to be more like women when it came to emotions,
yeah.
because if
I think that's bull crap. I just gotta say it. I think
yeah,
that's bull
I
crap.
agree. I agree. I think that was it was something that seemed to be pushed. It might have been how I was
Yeah,
interpreting it, so please forgive me. But it seemed to be like I mentioned before, or just go to therapy. You know, as though you just go to a talk group. But that in the main, I find unless you're already prepared for that, doesn't work for the majority of men as a starting point because there's already those walls up. There's already that aversion, that urge to pull back. So unless you're already going there armed with things that you're going to say and an awareness of what's coming, then I don't know how effective it would be. And I'm sort of talking myself into a bit of a circle now, but I think that's connection and what have you. We all want it, but we go about it in different ways. I'm trying to think how
yeah. And
best to explain
so,
what I'm saying.
well, I just wanted to touch on the psychology a little bit because that's where
Mm.
they all talk about the past, and there's a place for that. I mean, I'm not saying it's all bad, but
Mm.
when I was in my depressed and anxious mode, I didn't want to talk about my past
Mm.
because the thing about that is that they also will how do you say touch up on wounds that I was not prepared to look at
Mm.
yet. So
Mm.
it's in some ways it also made it worse.
Mm.
Um, and for me, I didn't want to look at the past. I just wanted to move forward, and okay, and knowing the how,
Mm.
because and maybe it's not fair to go that deep into this because I only had 5 6 sessions myself in the traditional therapy, but
Mm.
it didn't work because I had the feeling we were not doing anything. Like
Mm.
it was a woman that was
Mm.
consulting me,
Mm.
but we were not going anywhere. It's like me talking for an hour about. For me, it was nothing. I mean, some things
Mm.
about the past, so like the relationship with your parents and stuff. But for me, that was not the issue. It's like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
depressed, I'm anxious. Please give me something that I can hold on to when I'm in an
Mm.
episode of a panic attack or when I feel at my lowest point, then what do I do? Explain to me, how do I get out of this? And I
Yeah.
didn't know, and I didn't see how talking about the past could help me with this.
Mm.
And it
Yeah.
didn't, to be honest.
Mm. Mm.
I also know people where it worked for as well, because it also creates a sense of clarity. And for some,
Mm-hmm.
that's enough. But
Yeah.
for me, at that stage, it wasn't.
Mm.
So I think it also, and I'm going into a circle
Mm.
myself as well now. It's more about the how.
Yeah.
Um, and I think if you can show how, then it's way easier. And
Mm.
even men, I don't know about you and your experience, but they're not much of a talkers, let alone about their
Mm.
emotions and their
Yeah.
feelings, which is fine. I mean, I don't
Mm.
mind. So we just work with what we've got.
Mm.
But then going into therapy expecting they will lay their whole past on the
Mm.
table, like from session one, it's
Yeah.
also, it may work for women because they're talkative and more in touch with their
Mm.
feelings and their emotions to begin with.
Mm.
But I think men need a way different approach.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think you've put it better than I did. That's essentially what I was
yeah,
trying to crystallize before. That expecting men who are, who, are probably emotionally stunted to get to the point where they're walking through the door of a group session to then just be ready to bear all. And again, as well, in a group, which I don't know about you, I think it's the individual thing I prefer better. Like you're saying, there's a time and place for the existential stuff, but maybe that has to go the other way round. You're putting the cart before the horse, whereas I find with a lot of men, if there's just something tangible, like you said, to hold on to, okay, next week we'll look at this, but for now, this. And it's, I suppose even if it's half a step forward, you feel there's progress. Like you said, you felt that you were achieving absolutely nothing. And I'm sure to an extent walked out of that therapist's office feeling a bit confused. You're in your head for the week until the next session with no progress, nothing to your mind achieved or better, and you're still sitting in your depressed state until that time, which in your head it's a hard place to be when you're like that, you know? So I
yeah.
mean,
And it's also
yeah,
it's also weird because you
mm,
expect at least something they give you to work on, like they give you something to hold on to when you're in it.
mm,
And I had nothing, so you're also confused. Like,
yeah,
am I doing something wrong or something?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I
well,
mean,
at least that was my experience.
I viewed it sort of like, I suppose, like my dentist. I go to the dentist, you fix me tooth. After
Yeah,
that session, I go away, and then it's transactional, and that was how I at first viewed therapy. I am hurting. I will show up. You will give me some answers, and I will go away healed. I know that's a very reductive view, but that was me
yeah,
first approaching therapy, not knowing what to expect, and walking away. I was, to an extent, disappointed, but to be honest, very confused about what to do.
yeah.
There was nothing further. So, I mean, with that in mind, say for instance, I was to come to you, we were setting up to work at the emotional reset. How would you approach me as a new person? What would your methods be?
Well, first we talk about
Mm,
assuming that you come to me already prepared to work on yourself, because
yeah,
that's what the most people that come to me are already like, okay, I've stepped through the door, help me,
yeah,
I need guidance.
yeah,
So the first thing we do is just talk, like, what is your story? Like, why are you here? What's holding you back?
mm,
And then the next step for me, what's the question? Because most of
mm,
the time people only share their story, which is
yeah,
fine. I mean, the everybody's story is valid, so I'm listening, and that's fine.
mm,
But at some point, you also have to ask yourself, okay, you have this story, and now what? Where
mm,
do we want to go? What's the
yeah,
question? Um, and sometimes just sharing can also be therapy, like just
mm,
listening, and then because if someone gets something off their chest that they've been holding on for so long, it can give a great
Mm.
release. So that's sometimes it works also, but most of the time, when you come to me, I will ask you the question, okay, why are you here? What do you want to? Where do you want to go?
Mm.
And already that gives a sense of we're working towards something. So you
Yeah.
share your story. This is the pain I'm having.
Hmm.
I know this will not be solved in one session. Even I'm not
Yeah.
a magician. But
Yeah.
then, what's the goal? What are we working towards? When is the therapy or the whatever you're consulting? When is it a success?
Mm.
Um, and then we establish a goal where we're working towards, and
Yeah.
then we look at the things that needs healing, tweaking. I explain some concepts in which you can explain to yourself what you're going through. Why do you do the things that you do?
Hmm.
Because when you break it down, actually, it's very simple, and I can share it with you in a
Mm.
way that I think it's valuable. So, Tony Robbins taught me there's a this equation to a happy life, and it's nothing
Hmm.
groundbreaking. It's very easy, but
Mm.
when I saw it for the first time, I said, "Hey, that's true." So
Yeah.
maybe we can play it out a little bit together. So, if do you have a area of your life where you're very happy?
Mm. Oh,
So
yeah,
if the
you're
answer is
asking.
yes, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. Let's play it out
Oh,
together. So do you have
okay.
an area?
Yes, I do. Yes. Yeah. Um, I, at the moment, the relationship I have with my 14-year-old son is bringing me a lot of joy. Just, I suppose, seeing the man that he's becoming and that he's growing, and the influence that I've had on that, and how we relate to each other. That that at the moment it does. Yeah, that's making me a lot of bringing me a lot of joy.
That's amazing. That's very cool, by the way.
Mm.
See if this is true for you. See if
Mm.
equation is true for you.
Yeah.
So you have certain expectations around your relationship with you and your son, right?
Mm.
And your reality matches those expectations. So
Mm.
you have a blueprint, a vision on how your relationship with your son in this case looks like, and
Mm.
the reality is equal. So there's
Yeah.
nothing to be unhappy about. That's basically it.
Mm.
Is this true for you in the relationship with your son?
Um, I would say so. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've not actively come up with a blueprint, but I think so. Now you mentioned that yeah, there are certain norms that I have expectations on.
Exactly. Yeah, but basically that's it. And now let me ask you, I give you another one for also for unhappiness. It's pretty
Mm.
simple, it's pretty basic, but when you hear this, you might a light bulb might switch on. So do
Mm.
you have also an area in your life where you're not so happy?
Um, I don't think at the moment I've got anything that I'm particularly unhappy about. I think there are situations that are more likely to get me down. A lot of it, I suppose, work related when it's been particularly stressful and not,
Yeah.
there's, without wanting to say too much, but there's often times where just by the nature of my work, there's a feeling of disappointment, things going wrong. I'm a social
Yeah.
worker, so I work with, you don't often get the fairy tale, and
Yeah.
it's, it can be
I,
hard. I mean,
I
I don't want to use the word disappointment. That sounds wrong, but there is that slight, deflation.
Actually, I love that you mentioned the word fairy tale because
Mm.
that's the ideal we have in our head, right?
Mm.
And then when reality hits and it doesn't hit that fairy tale, now there's a gap
Yeah.
between the fairy tale and what's actually happening. And
Mm.
that's when the fairy tale and the what's happening in real life doesn't align. That's actually when you create unhappiness. So you have a vision,
Mm.
expectations for how things should be, and when you
Mm.
look into your own world, into your own reality, and it doesn't match, then
Mm.
it's a recipe for unhappiness.
Mm.
In that case, you can either change the fairy tale, so you can change your expectations to meet your standards or your
Mm.
reality, or you can change your standards, your outside world, to match your fairy tale. So
Mm.
there's you can do more things to how do you say create this layer of happiness in yourself if
Mm.
you're unhappy about a certain area.
Mm.
And then there's the last one, and I was stuck in this. Um, for me, especially when it came to my own mental health,
Mm.
is when your outside world doesn't align with your expectations, and
Mm.
also feel powerless to do something about it. That's
Mm.
called suffering.
Mm.
And this is the place most of the time, and I was no better. I mean, I where you blame things,
Mm.
events, people, even yourself.
Mm.
I was very good at blaming, because then you
Mm.
put the how do you say, responsibility outside yourself, and that's easier to deal
Mm.
with than when
Yeah.
you have to take full responsibility of your own life.
Mm.
And then I got stuck in some side, like, the infinity symbol. Like
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
one side, I was feeling sad and depressed until I didn't want to feel sad and depressed anymore. I really wanted to get out, and I got angry. Like, this time I'm really going to go for it. This time I really want to do it. Until I
Mm.
run out of steam, run out of energy. Then I got back to sad and depressed again until I
Mm.
was fed up with that again. Then I wanted to go for it again. And yeah, the way I coped with it was eating, and there was also alcohol involved. I wouldn't say
Mm.
I was an alcoholist, but more I would play darts a lot. So I was
Mm.
away a lot, and yeah, you drink a beer with that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you just numb those feelings.
Mm.
And the only way to get out of suffering is to take full responsibility of everything that's going on in your life. There's
Mm.
no other way. And I'm not saying that everything is your fault. I'm not saying that at all. But I am saying that if something did happen to you, you have to be the one to get yourself out of it, because there's no one
Yeah.
going to save you other than yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
Wow.
yeah,
I
those
mean,
three things.
as you're
Yeah, go
talking,
ahead.
then I can I can relate so much because I like again in a young age I put such high expectations on myself, comparing outwards, and then my inner world didn't meet that. So that created in me a lot of, I don't
Yeah,
know, a sense of you're not good enough, you know. And so I then, rather than getting better, I just tried to push that away. And I suppose there's a theory of, I can't remember the name of it, of you can't have a certain thing, so you teach yourself to want what you can get. And so I was working on that model, but trying to, yeah, portray myself as some like very knowledgeable, untouchable, you know, like wise and together kind of guy. And then, like I said, I got to the point, and I was also very good at blaming and very, very quick to point fingers externally. But
yeah,
by the same token, I also didn't really learn how to take praise. I got into that headspace of, oh, it's just luck or oh, whatever. It's, you know, it's nothing. It was that kind of thinking. And then when I got to the point where I actually did, I was in a position to work on mental health. I don't know. I took a bit of a funny turn. I don't know, in that I'd spent years blaming myself for everything when all these attempts didn't go right, and then trying to, I don't know. Yeah, I did then go through a phase of, oh, I do this because this, and it was reaching outwards, and it took me a while to find that equilibrium. It was that point though where I was finally ready to have the conversations with myself, the part that
yeah,
I had played in my own bad day. Do you know what I mean? So I
yeah,
suppose this comes back to like we were saying before, and I don't know whether it's a guy thing or I don't know whether it maybe it's just a me thing, but the other way was putting the cart before the horse, and it was ineffective for me. So I think I needed a different way to look at it so I could slot the pieces together. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, definitely. And what immediately came to my mind is the if then model. Like, I completely agree. I blame myself for so many things as well, and one of the hardest things I had to do is to look at my own part in this,
Mm.
because now you also have to take responsibility for your own part.
Hmm.
But when you said like you have your own inner um, way of looking at things, but then inside it's not there yet.
Hmm.
And then you go also into this, if I reach this goal, then I can feel confident. If I have this
Hmm.
girlfriend, then I can feel love. But then
Yeah.
there's always another if then. There's always
Yeah.
another, you never reach it. It's like the
Yeah.
carrot on the stick. You will
Hmm.
never reach the carrot, but you always aim for the so it's just a habitual way of thinking.
Hmm.
And once you start learning how to habitual think yourself into confidence, into self-love, and those kind of things, then life is way easier. Instead
Hmm.
of chasing something, reaching it, be happy for a week or a month, maybe 3 months, and then having the same empty feeling all over
Hmm.
again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that's a big part of the things as well. Like we chase something, and then when we
Hmm.
reach it, the feeling is there for a moment, but it doesn't
Hmm.
last, and then we reach for the next thing, and that's an
Yeah.
endless cycle of
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, no,
going nowhere.
I agree
Actually,
on that.
yeah,
Because, I mean, that was one that I did. But another facet to that I found, because I was externalizing validation. So I was
yeah, oh
viewed
yeah,
well because I had the girlfriend, because I had the car, because I had the clothes, whatever it was. But then there was a panic at losing them. Because not only would I lose whatever it was that I had, but then I was less than. So I would be such a pleaser. So in relationships, for example, I I would be the guy. Yeah, I had no boundaries as such because I didn't know this, and I would. I don't know. I had a view that loving somebody means you do the things. I mean, like, I suppose we buy into this Hollywood idea or the Jerry Maguire, you complete me kind of thing. And looking back now, that's a
yes,
lot of pressure to put on anybody, you know? But
yeah,
I am being all these things to you, therefore you must be all things to me. So there's the expectations that I'm putting on it without communicating these as well. Let's have that right. So I'm expecting my person to mind read that I am thinking these things because I'm not talking about it. And I'm creating these scripts in my head that were impossible for anybody to live up to. And then all of a sudden, you end up, the relationship falls apart. So I just go on such a tumble because, well, it blows your world apart, doesn't it? It's,
yeah,
yeah, it's crazy. But these, I don't know, this is how I sort of stumbled into emotional growth. But I tried doing it all myself, never asked for any help. And now I look back and it's like, man, give yourself a break. That was
yeah,
I think the biggest lesson for me, that I never gave myself a break, and I never looked outwardly for help. I always, rubbished other people to try and big up my own ego, but ended up, yeah, falling short in so many ways.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I can't speak for all guys, but a lot that I have spoken to now at my age and stage and what have you, they report similar kind of stories. You know, we're
yeah,
not
yeah, same.
taught we're not taught this in a younger age, which comes back to why I think now it's so good to see so many guys getting on board with this. As though, as though, again, forgive me, as though we're finally catching up to this kind of stuff. But I
Yeah,
think the second, third, fourth order effects of this are great. Seeing guys finally, I don't know, being able to have that happiness that doesn't come from things, that comes from, in their feeling that, you know what, I'm actually all right.
yeah, and one of the things you mentioned is like we are so hard on ourselves.
Hmm.
We all have this list of values and rules for ourselves that if we hit this, then we'll be happy,
Yeah.
and I want to avoid this because that will make me unhappy.
Hmm.
Um, that's actually one of the favorite exercises I do with all my clients is we look at your own programming. It's a
Mm.
very practical exercise. When I did this the first time, I had to laugh very hard at my own values and rules. I
Mm.
thought I had a decent knowledge of what I thought was important for myself, but
Yeah.
when I looked at it, I had no clue. And
Mm.
it's your own programming, and it goes like in the sense of what's important for you in your life, and then you answer all these questions, and you're
Mm.
searching for the feeling. So if you say cars or darts or soccer or whichever, then what
Mm.
does that give you? What is the feeling that gives you?
Yeah.
And then you put them in order, and then you look at it, and then you say, okay, what has to happen in order for me to feel this feeling? And then you look at all your rules. And for me, it's like I remember I had certainty on number one, which basically meant I had to know everything all the time before it happened, which is
Mm.
impossible. So,
Yeah.
and that was my number one value. That was the one thing I craved most. So I was already impossible to reach with my first thing. And then
Mm.
the whole list was just a crazy bunch of values and uh,
Mm.
rules that I thought I needed to feel and achieve so that I can feel happy.
Mm.
But it's very liberating when you see it like on paper in order, because then you see it and then you look at it and you think, oh, this is crazy. This is no way to
Mm.
live. Everyone
Mm.
with these values and rules would be anxious, would be depressed. And
Mm.
yeah, so you want to throw it in the rubbish bin immediately after that. Actually, I
Mm.
saved it because I want it as a remembrance
Mm.
of where I came from. And then you do the
Yeah.
same thing with emotions you want to not feel. So in the past, what are the feelings that you've done most about avoiding? And
Mm.
it can be anger, sadness, whichever. And then what has to happen in order for you to feel those feelings? And 9 out of 10 times, what happens for people, especially for the men I speak to, is it's impossible for them to feel happy, and it's very, very easy for them to feel unhappy. So they
Mm.
they got their lists switched.
Mm.
And that's something we that from there on work on as well, because once you realize the programs you're running on, or the expectations you run on, however you want to call it, then you
Mm.
can look at it objectively as well. Like, is this how I want to live? Do I want to continue with these values and rules?
Mm.
Um, but like I said, I did this exercise the first time myself, and I thought I knew. I had no idea. Like, things came up. I had no clue I thought were important to me.
Mm.
Also, feelings had no idea I wanted to avoid. One thing
Mm.
was love. So I shared a little bit that the breakup was the cause of my depression and anxiety, and caused me to go on to this whole mental health journey.
Mm.
But love was also something I wanted to avoid at some point, because I knew it hurt me the last time in such a way
Mm.
that I never wanted to experience it ever again. So craving it,
Yeah.
but also avoiding it. So I was
Mm.
only going with safe choices, with safe things. Like um, if they hurt me, I knew it wouldn't hurt that much. So
Mm.
dating was also. I always dated women I kind of liked, but not really.
Mm.
Um, and now it's completely different. But at some point, like once the realizations come in, it's like, oh, so that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm doing
Mm.
that. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yes,
No, I think like again that hit on an important thing, and a big lesson that I had to learn is that it's constantly evolving. You know, like
yeah,
yourself, I looked at what my values were, what I thought was important, and at the time I probably did. But it's well, then you do a bit of a deep dive. You know, I don't know. Let's say if you think money's important, it's like, well, all right, is it money in and of itself, or is it what it represents? Do you actually want safety? Do you want security? You know, whatever. And that was a thing. And I think that's, and again, I'm sort of making it a gendered issue that a lot of guys, but specifically myself, I viewed mental health as like leveling up. All right, I can do feelings, I can do values, I can do boundaries, and then that's it. I can put that to the side and forget about that. But rather than thinking of it as it's a constant process, you know, it's, I don't know, days change. Now that I know, you know, that I have a bit more self worth, or I view myself better, that doesn't mean that every day I'm going to be floating on some level of positivity forever. But that's how I
Yeah.
viewed it. And again, yeah, I have spoken to others who were sort of the same kind of thinking in a way. You read a self-help book or whatever, and then rather than actually expanding on the learnings, follow the letter of the law of what was in that book, and then try and live your life that way. Like you said, it's I suppose a guidebook because it does make it so much simpler, doesn't it? But I
Yeah.
think that was one. I don't know. At first, thought I'd nailed it, then realised that I hadn't, and then went into a bit of a downer on myself. Over time, it's that saying you don't know what you don't know is very important to me because,
Yeah.
well, constantly learning, and I think now accepting that I don't know everything. In fact, accepting that I know, in the grand scheme of things, very little. So I'm open to listening, improving, etc. It has put me in a better frame of mind, but it takes a long time to get from this to this. Like, you can't just have somebody say, all right, well, don't be depressed, reframe it as something else. And a light
Yeah.
bulb switches on, and you're like, oh, yeah, why didn't I think of that? There's a lot you've got to go through. I was quite impatient. I wanted happy
Mm.
quick, and that's yeah. I think a lot of guys that I've spoken to have kind of viewed it in the same way. There's that task focused element, but it's yeah. I don't know. I think I appreciate the kickings that life has given me because now, like you say, I can look back as lessons, as markers on my roadmap that yeah, I don't know. I think the hardest lessons are always the ones I've learnt best, but it took a lot of
Yeah.
time until I was willing to face them. Like you mentioned about dating, it'd be a similar thing. I would shrink myself to fit, but I was never fully happy because I was just holding that much back. Because yeah,
Yeah.
similar sort of situation. I had been hurt very badly at a young age. I didn't want that again. And so I took steps for protection rather than connection. And that's, yeah, I don't know. It took me a long time to realize it. So I think crafting my own emotional reset, it was looking at a lot of those things. And rather than just, all right, these are new skills and tips, looking at that, where did the programming come from? Why did you learn these behaviours to protect you then? Because they don't fit now. And is that a rough sort of guide as to where you work in that way?
Yeah, and I want to touch on something you said. What I think is very healthy is you look at um, mental health in this case as a challenge, as an opportunity for growth instead of
Mm,
this whole woo-woo thing.
yeah.
And I feel it exactly the same thing. It's like you said, your darkest period can create the biggest lesson. So when I was going through it myself as well, it hurt as hell. I didn't like it
Mm,
at all. But going back, I wouldn't want to change it for anything because
mm,
it taught me so many things. It's
mm,
just you need something to get out of it.
mm,
And in the beginning, I viewed these things of me not being good enough. So I saw it as a punishment of me not being good enough as a
mm,
person, like not being
yeah.
funny enough, good looking enough, etc., etc. It's the
Mm,
whole why thing.
yeah.
um, but once you start looking at, and I think that's a very big man point of view. If you're looking at it as a challenge to get out of it, with or without any help, then already you start opening up for opportunities, for other
Mm,
points of view, for other perceptions. And
mm,
once that starts happening, you open. And I think that's why guidance can be so important. Because if you're like me, I wanted to try to solve it by myself, but then you're looking in
mm,
all the same places over and over again. But if you have someone
yeah.
that sits there with you and says, "What if you look over here a little bit?" And to me, that's
Mm,
what guidance is all about, asking you the questions to look there yourself so you can come there on your own time, your own pace, and your own insights. because my insights will
mm,
be way different than yours. So I don't
mm,
want to say do this. I'm asking the questions. What's good about this that you don't see
mm,
yet, or
yeah,
what is the person you have to become in order to achieve it? So it's all about asking the right
mm,
questions and pointing you in a certain direction so you can come there on your own. And doing
mm,
exercises all about creating clarity, just so you know where you are right now. Because most of, like we look at ourselves backwards now, and we have a certain sense of clarity about who we are, where we come from.
mm,
But we had to learn that as well. Like we don't start with that. So if there's someone that can
mm,
help you looking where you supposed to be looking instead of looking where you want to look, like, and that's what coaching, I always say,
mm,
when I'm coaching someone, I'm not your friend, I'm your best friend, meaning I will say what you need to hear instead of what you want
mm,
to hear, and that's a different message.
yeah,
And
mm,
when you see those things as a challenge, then like men love a challenge, I love a challenge, I still love a challenge.
mm,
And when you view it from that
yeah,
perspective, and see it as an opportunity for growth, as to become a better man, as a better human being, more masculine, or whatever it is for
mm,
you, then it's a
mm,
completely different thing. And I think that's how to answer your question. I think it's all about perspective. It's not you not being good enough. It's challenge yourself to become
mm,
better. And once you're in that mindset,
mm,
then anything is possible.
yeah. No, I absolutely do love that. That last statement then just, I suppose, crystallizes a lot of this work for me in that, yeah, it's not about being more right than somebody else. It's not about winning a certain thing. It's about trying to be the best of you.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
yeah,
I don't know about you. I know I can't solve all the world's problems, but if I can add a bit of light in my little corner of the world for myself and for others around me, then I'll consider it a good job. So I mean, well, I suppose let's bring this one on home then, Tim. I mean, to finish, can I ask, once a man has been through, your program with you and what have you, and you send him out into the world, what does that look like for, in the main? What lesson do you give him to keep working on, to take away, to carry on the work?
so if it's okay with you, I want to share it with one of my patients, and I think it's my biggest success
Hmm.
story actually. And he came with
Yeah.
me. He was 3 years, 3.5 years in traditional therapy. He also had
Hmm.
autism, but his main thing was depressed and even suicidal. Now, I want to
Mm.
emphasize immediately, I'm not in any way or thing knowledgeable about autism, so I don't want to touch that at
Mm.
all. But his
Yeah.
depression I could work with. So we went through this whole thing. We set up 5 appointments up front, and then we would check at the fifth one if we were on the right track, if we needed to change anything, etc., etc.
Mm.
But we were at the fourth session, and I wanted to reaffirm the fifth session, and he said, Tim, I don't need the fifth session anymore. I'm feeling so good. I'm already feeling so much better, so much clarity. I've got the tools I need, I got the knowledge I need. I
Mm.
don't need the fifth one. Yeah, you keep the money, I'm happy. And every time I see him
Mm.
now, he's still thankful. And I think that's what I want
Mm.
to give someone as well. Like, I want there be a one. I want to be a one-time stop. So when you leave me, you
Mm.
have the tools, knowledge that whenever your life challenges you again, you can do with the knowledge and tools I gave you. You can manage yourself. I
Yeah.
give you the clarity where you are right now. I can guide you to where you want to go. I give you tools, knowledge, and whatever you need to manage your own state, to manage your own emotions, to regulate navigating through your own hardships. And
Hmm.
hopefully we will see each other again and drink a beer or whichever, and then we talk about life in a good way.
Yeah.
For me, it's not. It's like you said. I love that statement. I don't have all the answers in the world, but if I can just bring a little bit of light in my area, I'm very happy.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I think that's how I would answer your question like that.
Mm. No, I love that. No, that is, yeah, genuinely inspiring. I like to hear nowadays, people doing well. And I find a lot of, as I said, guys I talk to and what have you, I seem to have become, I don't know, some sort of emotional magnet. I think I must have set myself
Yeah.
as a bit of a safe guy to talk to now. So I become a bit
Yeah.
of a sounding board. But then when I'll, run into these guys later on and what have you, and they tell me about successes by just tweaking things and doing it a different way, it does feel really good. Like I'm putting some good out into the world. And so, yeah,
Exactly.
with
Yeah.
that, I mean, I really appreciate you coming to speak with me. It's been amazing, and I do love hearing from good people in the world doing good things. So thank you.
Thank, thank
No,
you
my
too. I
problem.
think you're doing
No,
amazing. It was an absolute blast to be on here. So thank you.
thank you, and I'll thank you out there again for listening. As always, I appreciate your support. For those of you new to the podcast, if you could look out for me on Instagram and TikTok under Social Harmony Talk and Facebook under Social Harmony Time to Talk, I'll post show links, news about upcoming episodes, maybe selfies about myself if you're lucky, and information about new episodes as they land on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where I launch a new episode every Monday at 6 o'clock New Zealand time. So if I can ask you also, follow on those platforms, leave a comment or a rating, etc. I really appreciate it, and it increases my reach. If you're around and you've got a story to tell and you want to join me, please get in touch and we can discuss a future episode together. But for now, go well, look after yourselves, keep talking. Thanks very much for listening.